This video is sponsored by Skillshare. When I was a kid, every year at Christmas, my mom would serve this store-bought Stromboli, this pepperoni and cheese Stromboli, as an hors d'oeuvre on Christmas Day. And I loved it. I'd fill up on those and never actually be hungry for the actual Christmas dinner. It was a really good brand, and eventually they discontinued that product. Since then, we stopped serving it on Christmas. But I gravitate towards the nostalgic these days, so this year, I want to try and recreate that Stromboli, but from scratch, and re-implement it into our holidays. So let's just jump right into it. Now to start the dough, we got 1 cup of hot water. I just popped it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and it's probably like 100 to 110 degrees. Gonna throw in a tablespoon, a teaspoon of some dry active yeast. And we're just gonna wait for that to bloom. You can already see it's working, so I know that the yeast is alive. I'm gonna set this off to the side. So we had the 1 cup of the warm water. We're gonna go 2 cups of flour, give or take. All-purpose flour, where I've used bread flour in my pizza dough recipe. I don't really need the higher gluten level of that flour, so all-purpose is fine for this. Got a tablespoon of sugar, pinch of salt. I'm just gonna mix it in. Once the yeast is foamy and smells like beer, it should be good to go. Go ahead and add that to the dry ingredients and start to mix it together like an electric mixer would until it forms this wet mass. We're gonna work a bunch more flour into the dough once we start to knead it, so don't worry at this point. Get some flour on the board and start to work the dough by hand. If you're using a mixer, you can add all the flour at once, but I like to work it in by hand and learn how the dough behaves and how it should feel when it's right. So I have about a half cup to a cup of extra flour off to the side, and I'm gonna knead that in gradually until the dough tells me it doesn't need anymore. So just knead the dough while working in flour whenever it feels too sticky to knead. Use a bench scraper to help out. Over time, the dough is going to begin to feel less tacky and easier to work with once you're close. I like to imagine how an electric mixer's dough hook works the dough and try and replicate that with my hands until most of the tackiness is gone and the dough forms a ball and it's fairly smooth. It should take around 10 minutes. Once you think it's done, shape it into a ball before you let it rise. See, not so tacky anymore. We kind of worked it all out. I'm gonna get it into a little bowl with some little bit of olive oil. Get a cover on it, and we're just gonna let this rise at room temperature. And while we let this rise, it's a great opportunity to thank our sponsor today, Skillshare. As the world changes, it's our responsibility to change with it. And sometimes that means learning new skills. And that's why I love partnering with Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community designed to teach you new skills. It's thousands of inspiring classes, ranging from photography to graphic design to cooking. Regardless of what you like, what you want to learn, whether you're a beginner or a novice, they've got a class for you. It's curated specifically for learning, which means there's no ads and they're always launching new premium classes. And it's all less than $10 a month for an annual subscription. Right now I'm taking Presentation Essentials, How to Share Ideas That Inspire People by Simon Sinek. Mainly because I love Simon Sinek and it's also an interesting topic. I'm also starting to think about brewing my own coffee at home. So I saw this class that I decided to take from Michael Phillips, the director of training at Blue Bottle Coffee, a coffee company that knows a thing or two about brewing coffee. So if you want to start learning new skills, the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link down in the description, you're gonna get a free trial for a Skillshare premium membership. So you can dive in and learn new skills. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. Now let that dough rest on the counter at room temperature for an hour. It's probably gonna at least double to triple in size. After an hour, it's risen, it's ready to use. We just need to grate up the cheese. I've just got about a pound of whole milk mozzarella, dry, not fresh. Got the cheese. For the pepperoni, you want to go to your butcher, the deli counter, and have them slice you the pepperoni from the big wheel of pepperoni. Sometimes they leave a little plastic thing around there, so just make sure, no plastic. I have a ½ pound here, so I've got some parchment on here that fits on a sheet tray, but I want to get that on to the table first. This is a little trick I saw when I was doing my research for this from a stay-at-home chef. Using parchment paper is gonna make it a lot easier to handle this dough, especially once you've rolled it into like a big log. Otherwise, it's gonna be really no way for you to move it up onto a sheet tray. So this acts like a transfer paper almost. Rolling pin and your dough. So now I'm not gonna try and mess with it. I'm just gonna turn it over and let it drop onto the parchment paper. And then I'm gonna roll it out with the rolling pin. If I need a little oil on it, I'll put a little oil on it. I'm gonna start to use the parchment paper to roll it out into like a big, large rectangle as evenly as I can, and I'm gonna try and get it as thin as I can. See how thin it is? That's what you want. You don't want to get too thin. It's also gonna rise, remember, when it bakes. I'm gonna go a layer of the pepperoni, and I'm gonna roll it this way. So what I wanna do is leave like a little bit of a border on the edges, and then not really take it all the way to the edge that I'm gonna close it with. You wanna shingle the pepperoni so that there's no blank spots, but it's a nice, thin, even layer. One nice thin layer of the pepperoni, and then we're gonna do the same with the cheese. Now we're gonna start to roll it as if you were making cinnamon rolls. Just slowly roll this thing up onto itself using the parchment paper as needed. Once you get to the edge, sort of just pull that edge up and then use the parchment paper to sort of create the shape and form the Stromboli. And then seal up the ends. See, now we're just gonna take that and very easily we're ready to go. A few more things we have to do real quick. Now, if you got any thin rolled out spots, you may risk what we call in the business a blowout, but it's okay. I've had them before. It usually turns out all right. So that seals on the bottom. That's gonna bake shut. I got a little thin spot over here I'm worried about, but we're good. We're gonna get a little egg wash beaten up. Now remember, the Stromboli had these little strips all along the top. They're vents. You need to vent it somehow. You can kind of get decorative with it, so I'm just gonna do it the way I remember the Stromboli looking. You're basically gonna make these steam vents the size of the slices that you're gonna end up carving at the end. So however big you want the pieces at the end cut, space the vents accordingly. There it is. Now you can top it with some more cheese, some parsley, whatever you want, but I'm going straight up. That's how I remember it. I think it's gonna be perfect. Let's get it in the oven, 400 degrees. We're just gonna make the determination around the 20-25 minute mark and see how we're doing. Pop it into the oven. Sorry for my greasy little camera, from my greasy little hands. I'll clean it in a second. And then set a timer for 20 minutes. Around halfway through, give it a little turn just so it cooks evenly. And then look at this. I got a blowout. But forget about it. It's gonna be okay. After 20 minutes, I can see I need another 5 minutes. So after 25 minutes and a quick lens clean, it should be done. Get it onto a cutting board and let it rest for a good 10 to 15 minutes before you slice into slices. kind of actually tastes just like I remember. Oh, so delicious. As always, this recipe and all my holiday recipes are in my holiday plan of attack, the ebook version. This is one of one, so I don't have any books yet. The link is down in the description. If you're a Patreon member, just like all the people scrolling up on the screen right now, you get this for free. The link and the password are in the Patreon page. Go check that out. Thank you all for watching. Thanks to all my patrons. That's all that I have today. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself and go feed yourself.